Honourable members, Mr. Speaker.
Prayers.
Almighty God, who in your infinite wisdom and providential goodness have appointed the office of leaders and parliaments for the welfare of society and the just government of humanity. We beseech you to look upon with abundant favor these your servants, whom you have been pleased to call to the performance of such important trusts in this land. Let your blessing descend upon them here assembled, and grant that they may, as in your presence, treat and consider all matters that shall come under the deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as promote honor and glory, and to advance the good of those whose interests you have committed to their charge.
Amen.
Amen.
Yes. Today I'm here.
Item number 2, communication from the chair.
Thank you. Colleagues, I welcome you to today's sitting. I want to remind the Committee on Finance, Planning and Economic Development to complete the tax and revenue bills so that the House is able to consider them before supply. Colleagues, I think you've been seeing announcements. Today we shall have high mass at 5 p.m. in the conference hall. The main celebrant will be the Most Reverend Bishop Robert Muhira. This is, you are all invited. And because of that, I'll be finishing this session at 4:45 so that we can attend mass. On 27th of April, 2022, this house halted the construction of structures in a green belt in Uganda. And yesterday, the Honorable Peter Mugema, Panado, again raised this matter on the floor, that the directive of this house had not been adhered to. And I required the Minister for Local Government to go and report back to this house. I don't see the minister here, but maybe if there is an update from Honorable Panado, never know, since he was the one who raised this matter.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, and thank you for your concern. The latest information I have, yesterday the PS was there in Iganga. He reached at around 6:20. He went and visited the site, and he did not make any comment. He said he will bring back his findings, I think, to the line minister, whom I'm eagerly waiting to see and hear what he will be telling me. But I'm very grateful. But as we talk now, they build day and night. They have even floodlights. You see, it is the racket of mafias who are taking away our Freedom Square, the green belt of Uganda. And I remember one time I hosted there General Katumba Wamala. It has been a green belt. People have been there dancing, relaxing from there. So I'm eagerly waiting for the line minister to give us his status report.
So, Right Honorable, you'll give us an update on the action taken. You wanted to do it now? Right Honorable Nakadama was here representing the Prime Minister.
Right Honorable Speaker, like he said that the PS went on ground to see what is happening so that he can come up with a comprehensive report. We've not yet received that report, so we are still waiting. I thank you.
Right Honorable Prime Minister, that was not a matter which didn't need a comprehensive report. You can take your seat. The town clerk was directed by the permanent secretary. He was directed by the physical planning board that no construction should take place in the green belt, but he allowed it to continue. So If a town clerk would really require a permanent secretary to first drive, you drive government fuel to up to Uganda to see a person who is defying a government directive, because you see, a permanent secretary is from your own, from the executive. Physical planning board is for the executive. So, I mean, for us, what we want is very simple. On Tuesday, we'll be ready, but the MP has told you they are building day and night, so that I think they claim compensation, whoever it is. Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Right Honourable Speaker and colleagues, I want to promise you that between today and tomorrow, I'm going to use my powers as Prime Minister and stop that construction.
Thank you, Right Honourable. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Honourable colleagues, I've also read in the news, of course, we welcome the President of Mozambique, who is here visiting us. Mozambique contributed a lot to the liberation of this country. But I've read in the news that the Minister of Foreign Affairs was saying that they are negotiating with the government of Mozambique for diplomatic passport holders and I think official passport holders to start traveling between the two countries visa-free. Now, this brings me to an issue where I've received very many calls from many people. And I think even you colleagues and Right Honourable, people coming for visa recommendations. It's very difficult for Ugandan to get a visa to other countries. Our president has been fighting for Pan-Africanism, African integration, giving whatever he can to the rest of the continent. But to get a visa to some of the African countries, we have a minister whom I know was not feeling well, was going to be operated. To get a visa for a caretaker to South Africa was a tug of war. So the moment we keep thinking about ourselves, what about that young man from Chikubo who is going to trade in China? Who is going to trade in South Africa? Who is going to trade somewhere? So it's a very big point of concern currently for us as members of parliament and many ministers. We go to many countries without visas. So, Right Honourable Prime Minister, I would like to request that in 2 weeks' time, the Minister of Foreign Affairs brings a comprehensive statement on the measures being taken to negotiate friendly visa terms for the ordinary Ugandan who uses an ordinary passport. Because you have a diplomatic passport, but you will try to take your sick child to a country and you will be denied the visa. So I request that one, so that then we see where we feel this is about negotiating for visa-friendly terms for the ordinary person, for people going to trade in China, to trade in Turkey. I have another, and a government official, by the way, going on government business. She applied for a visa to the US to go on government business in December and has been given an appointment December 2021 and has been given an appointment of November 2022. Yes, now you need a whole year appointment to get a visa. And yet those countries, for them, they come here in just a short time. So to me, I feel Uganda, we've made very strong strides as a country that our visa, our passport should be respected, seriously. So let the Minister of Foreign Affairs bring us a comprehensive statement on measures being taken to ensure that Ugandans can easily travel to other countries, like how other citizens easily travel to Uganda. Tomorrow, I've received an information from the sports team that we have a football match, a friendly football match between the UPDF generals and the parliamentary team. Our very own, the CDA generals, and then our own Honorable Lino Singopek will captain the parliamentary team. It's a friendly match to foster relations between the UPDF and us, because we all work for the good of this country. So I urge you colleagues to attend the match at Rugogo, Philip Omondi Stadium at 3 p.m. and I hope Chivumbi can be our striker tomorrow. Yes, I think these are the main issues. Now, procedure on what? You want to respond to my communication? A procedure on my communication? Honorable Tebandeke, what's your procedure matter?
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I also join thousands congratulate you to that elevation of a new position as our Speaker to this Parliament. Right Honorable Speaker, I raise a procedure matter under Rule 141 of our Rules of Procedure over the delayed bills, aware that yesterday you did rule that all the delayed bills must be presented to this House effectively from next week. Right Honorable Speaker, my issue is over the delayed fisheries and aquaculture bill 2021. Right Honorable Speaker, I'm aware that this bill has taken almost 6 months effectively from September last year when it was presented to this House. However, my main issue is not about the delay, but is about the enforcement unit, which is affecting some of the clauses of the bill before it's debated here in the House. Right Honorable Speaker, in the bill, I happened to read clause 13, which was granting powers to the UPDF soldiers, the FPF, to take on enforcement of the bill, of the law. And I also happened to read through the current Fish Act 2010 and the statutory instrument number 33 of the Fish Act chapter 197, Rule 26 gives powers of enforcement of the Fish Act to the authorized of the Fish Act describes who are the authorized officers to carry on the enforcement. Right Honorable Speaker, this is not only in violation of the Fish Act and the rights of Ugandans, but also violation to the Constitution. Article 212, Part B, properly describes enforcement of law to be done by police. Right Honorable Speaker, are we proceeding well if the UPDF soldiers are taking on enforcement of the clauses of the bill, which has not yet come into effect? Are we proceeding well?
Thank you,
If
Honorable.
UPDF is taking on the work of police, are we proceeding well if the violation of rights of Ugandans in the fishing community is not effectively defended? Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable. Honorable, has to do with what is going on here. Acts of the UPDF, whatever they are doing, you could have raised them under other questions. Okay? There are very many opportunities you have of raising issues of national importance. Well, because you violated Rule 8 of our rules of procedure, which is debating in anticipation. It's very clear you cannot come here to discuss contents of the bill when the bill is not yet brought for consideration. Now, not everyone has. And there is no any problem. Thank you. Honorable Watkins, is it procedure?
Speaker. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, sir.
But Honorable Saropend is not here to translate for the Prime Minister. So, Prime Minister, will you be able to?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, sir. I'm honored to have served as Shadow Minister of Foreign Affairs in the 10th Parliament. And Mr. Speaker, sir, my position on this is in response to your communication regarding visas, and I want to specifically focus on the United States. Mr. Speaker, sir, while serving as Minister for Foreign Affairs in the shadow government, I had the opportunity to interact with the then United States Ambassador, Ambassador Deborah Malloch. I shared with some officials in the White House, in the Pentagon, and the State Department. Mr. Speaker, sir, we got a window of opportunity where our citizens, when the United States visas will be offered 10 years visa period or visa window. I came and shared with the Speaker then, Right Honorable Rebecca Kadaga, about that opportunity. I came and shared with the Speaker then about that window of opportunity so that a visit, Mr. Speaker, sir, could be made to the Embassy of the United States, where our government, specifically the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, could have a conversation with the Embassy of the United States so that we have 10 years window of visa. And Mr. Speaker, sir, I take this opportunity to inform you that that window is still available.
Honorable Watkins.
Yes.
I have requested the minister to bring a comprehensive statement, okay, which we shall discuss comprehensively. So that statement will have measures being taken to help an ordinary Ugandan travel easily, acquire visas easily.
I'm only giving
please,
you the opportunity, Mr. Speaker, sir.
No, you don't give the Speaker an opportunity, Honorable. Kindly take your seat. Please, I've given you an opportunity. You don't need to reciprocate. Please. This matters of national importance. Honorable Fox Odoi.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, on Wednesday morning and last night, disaster visited the people of West Budama Northeast. Right Honorable Speaker, West Budama Northeast is a county in Tororo district, and it comprises a total of 6 sub-counties. The sub-counties of Sopsop, Paya, Nawire, Kirewa, and Soni. Very heavy rainfall accompanied with hailstones, strong winds that destroyed several farms, destroyed private houses, and also destroyed institutional buildings, including, but not limited to, institutions of learning. A primary school at a place called Senda was completely destroyed. The structural integrity of several primary schools including a primary school called Nyabanja, Katande Primary School, Wikus Primary School, Kainja Primary School, Sopso Primary School, Paya Primary School, Sere were thoroughly compromised. Mr. Speaker, I rise to make the following prayers. Number one, that the Right Honorable Prime Minister here present responds immediately to the needs of the people of West Budama Northeast. They are now living under trees. Their children will have to go to school under trees, and they will still be expected to compete nationally when the examinations come. And number two, that the government prepares relief packages to alleviate and mitigate the suffering of the people. They will not have any harvest for the next season. I so pray, Right Honorable.
Right Honorable Prime Minister.
Thank you so much, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, government has received the information and we shall act accordingly. However, I want members, if you get such a problem, you can write to the Ministry of Disaster Preparedness. Yes, you can write, and we have been acting on members' correspondences. I promise that government will act. Thank you so much. But there is one point I wanted to make, Right Honorable Speaker, that through members of parliament, we need to mobilize our communities to plant trees, to act as windbreakers. This will save a lot. This will save a lot. Thank you so much.
Honorable Kiza Kenneth Nyandoa.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. For the record, Kiza Kenneth Nyandoa, Member of Parliament representing the people of Bujenja in Masindi. Right Honorable Speaker, I rise on a matter concerning the people of Masindi who are in sugarcane growing areas. Masindi district is a predominantly sugarcane growing area with over 7,000 farmers. But lately, the farmers are suffering from lack of markets, which has led the sugarcane on people's fields to go to 30 months plus. Previously, sugarcane would be harvested between 18 and 24 months as per the cane production contracts that were signed by the farmers and the millers. As a result, a lot of farmers have had to go and borrow money against their sugarcane in anticipation that they would sell and pay these monies. As a result, many farmers are faced with the loss of their properties since commercial banks are after them trying to recover their monies. Right Honorable Speaker, the same farmers are now suffering from increased prices of inputs, especially urea, DAP fertilizers, which have more than doubled in price. A bag of urea, which was costing 100,000 shillings, has gone to over 200,000 shillings, making it difficult for farmers to break even. Right Honorable Speaker, these are my prayers. Government should intervene and make sure these farmers get market for their products to alleviate the issue of poverty, which is knocking at most people's doors. We also pray that government should heavily subsidize fertilizers and seed cane for farmers, like they've been doing for others. And finally, our prayer is that the sugar board, which should have come in place by now, be constituted. Because as we are aware, the Sugar Act came into law, but to date, there's no sugar board, which is supposed to mitigate these issues which are affecting farmers, like pricing and regulation of the sugar market. I beg to submit.
You have a Minister of Trade who can also supplement you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, my colleague, for raising this important issue of sugar production in the country. Mr. Speaker, it is true that has been a lot of sugar being produced in the country, and some of which have not been consumed. And government is in the process, for example, before I come to the issue of Kinyara and Masindi, in Busoga, we are putting up an extra factory, and money has been put in the budget in Iruka to process it. On the side of Western Uganda, in Masindi in particular, we, as you know, Kinyara Sugar Works has now increased the capacity to do refined sugar. And with the opening of the economy, the demand, we anticipate that the demand is going to increase, and this consumption of sugar will also increase. But the solution to this is putting up more factories, especially refined sugar. And Kinyara Sugar Works has now started producing refined sugar, which has not been the case before. And therefore, it's a temporary, we think it's a temporary situation. In the next 3 to 5 months, the consumption of sugar will increase, especially when we continue to increase the capacity of producing refined sugar in the country. Just a second, these other issues that we have raised, I'll follow up, I'll visit the Masindi and talk to the farmers about some of those issues together with you.
Honorable, how much time do you need to give us a feedback here? Because it's not only about one constituency. This affects several constituencies.
I could give you a feedback next week.
Okay, so
Yeah,
Thursday next week.
On the plan that we have to resolve these issues. But as I said, Mr. Speaker, the solution is putting up more factories. He's raised another issue of the sugar board. The problem has been funding for the sugar board, but we are glad to announce that probably by July, the sugar board should be in place.
No, Honorable, let me give you time to visit Masindi, but also Soga here. And Honorable Oranya might be also having the same, so that you report back in 2 weeks after visiting the areas. I think it would be better.
Okay, much obliged.
Honorable Gilbert, you.
Yeah, Honorable Speaker, thank you for the good guidance. Honorable Speaker, I would explore the Honorable Minister to meet people coming from the sugarcane growing areas. Right, Honorable Speaker, in my district, Amoro, farmers are crying. People were told to grow sugarcane, and currently there are no markets. And the prices patterns, the sugarcane factories are dictating on the prices. They are giving very low prices when farmers have put too much in the production. So it will be very important. Let the minister meet people coming from the sugarcane area so that we discuss the way forward together with the factory owners.
Sure. Honorable Rumu Richard. Honorable Numbers, I know you have a point of procedure. Take your seat, I will allow you. I said take your.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. My name is Richard Lumu, I'm Member of Parliament representing Itiana South. Mr. Speaker, I'm rising on a matter of national importance concerning Makerere University main building. Mr. Speaker, main building was gutted by fire on 20th September 2020. The building caved in and the walls were completely destroyed. The Minister of Education, Honorable Chrysostom Muyingo, appeared in this parliament to update the parliament of the condition of the building. Mr. Speaker, the cabinet immediately passed 21 billion to construct the building that had been destroyed. Mr. Speaker, today they are repairing the building, the walls, the remainders of what was gutted by fire. Mr. Speaker, that worries me and all of the people who actually attended Makerere University. The Ivory Tower is a very important building of the university. When I say of the university, I mean Makerere University. Mr. Speaker, my prayers are here. One, we need to know whether the money which was provided by the parliament was for repairs or fresh construction of a fresh building known as the Ivory Tower. Two, was there a report of engineers or qualified people so that the parliament is aware whether repairing the walls which had been gutted by fire and weakened can be repaired to actually carry the weight of the roof which will be put. Honorable Speaker, that this House interests itself in investigating what exactly was recommended by the House. So I pray.
Honorable, you're putting me in a tricky corner. You're doubting the decisions of this House because, look, I haven't given you time to, because, Honorable, a request came from government. It came here. They did, okay? After scrutinizing it, we came here on the floor, basing on the scrutiny that we had done, we made a resolution as a House. Now, what we should be doing as a House is to allow whatever we passed to be implemented, and then we do our oversight role. Yeah, because here, if we are to go beyond that, then you're saying someone needs to show us whether what we passed is being implemented and all that before they could even start. So, colleagues, I think we are, let's know where our powers stop. So I would, but what I will do, okay, I'll ask the Committee on Education to follow up on that matter, to ensure Honorable Sewungu, you're a member of the Committee on Education. I will task the Committee on Education to ensure that the money we passed for that task is well utilized and used for the task it was allocated for. Period. Allow me, Honorable Namboze, I know your issue. Allow me to finish matters of national importance, which I have here. Honorable Barimwezo, Ronald. So the Committee on Education, please.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I'm raising on matter of urgent public importance. On the 22nd day of February 2022, a certain gang of goons rounded up Luzira Stage 7 village with armed with pangas, sledgehammers, and pickaxes. These guns started demolishing people's homes. When the people heard, they came out and fought back. This team ran away. The goons ran away. And they did all these acts in the face of a security camera. Right, Honorable Speaker, I was called at 2 a.m. I swung into action. By the time I reached, police hadn't arrived. So I called police, and eventually police came after. Right, Honorable Speaker, I found that when the houses had been partially demolished. In the morning, I called the Minister of Lands, the Honorable Mayanja, who visited the scene, and directed the police to make sure that they carry out investigations and arrest the criminals. But up to now, nothing has gone on, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, just last Saturday, 2 months after, the same group came back, this time a little serious, armed with petrol in jerrycans, sledgehammers, and pickaxes. They started demolishing. When the people heard, they alarmed, and these thugs took off. Right Honorable Speaker, my people are living under uncertainty. They are living under fear for their lives. And police has a mandate to secure the people and their property. I want to know from the Minister of Internal Affairs what he is doing to ensure security and public safety for my people. I beg to submit. And also know what they are doing to make sure that they arrest the culprits. Thank you.
Right Honorable Prime Minister, you can see goons are terrorizing people. It's a very serious matter. Honorable Rogers, Honorable Engineer Parimwezo is concerned.
The brothers concerned, I am going to direct the Minister of Internal Affairs to go on site and investigate and make sure that these goons are put to book, arrested and
thank you. Honorable colleagues, in the public gallery this afternoon, we have children of the Holy Missionary Childhood, an affiliate of the Archdiocese of Mbara Development Association and Kampala Archdiocese. They are accompanied by their teachers and have come to observe the proceedings of this house. Please join me in welcoming them. There are very many. I can't read all the names in the interest of time, but the teachers are Teacher Chomhanji Maturet, Tushabe Aren, who is the parents representative on the executive committee, Teacher Dorothy Atire, Teacher Tony Mwebaze, and Teacher Justice Amanya Media and Publicity. But I think, colleagues, for purposes of these young children of ours, also hearing their name, let me just quickly read through. Katerega Golden, can just raise your arm, we see you. Oh, is Katerega Golden. Just wave. Oh, very good. Maria Nansoko, Beine Jean Carl, John Michael, Monica Katerega, Bron Nganzi, Alton Scrivia, Bryce Eli, 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 Bry Bryce Eli, Matthias Harvey, eine kama Leona Pauline, Henrietta Anna Maria, Daniela Agumenitwe, Helena Immaculate, Joseph Fathon, Noera Rinda Sima, Deyonda Nigan, Manzi Ryan Mwesigwa, Nicolo Mrunji Mwesigwa, Barunji Taira Mary, Musime Bruno, Ampe Jonathan, Davina Maria Bijira, Mwebembe Samuel, Harriet Mwebazi, and Elvis Atwini. Colleagues, I think you've copied names for your unspotted children. You hear the good names. I'm coming. Honorable Mukasa Rogers, you have an issue which I would guide. It's an issue on increasing cases of cancer in the country. I would guide that you hand over that issue to the Prime Minister so that on Thursday, she gives you a comprehensive answer. This is not a matter of national importance. It's not an urgent matter. It's of national importance, but it's not very urgent, and it would need a comprehensive answer. So I request, Honorable, that you write a comprehensive question and you pass it on. Honorable Katsabe, there is no one on the floor. The Prime Minister is already off the floor. I'm on the floor. Honorable Ronald Evans Kanyike. Honorable Ronald Evans Kanyike.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. For the record, I'm Kanyike Ronald Evans, a member of Parliament representing the people of Bukoto East, Masaka District. I rise on a matter of national importance. Right Honorable Speaker, in August last year, I petitioned the office of the Speaker over the forceful eviction of 3,000 people in my constituency, in the villages of Kasanje, Nachiga, and Bilinzi, in Isunga Parish, Bukakata Sabukaunte, by National Oil Palm Project and Bidco Uganda Limited to use the land for oil palm growing. The distributed land is in question is comprised in a free register volume of block 271, and it is registered in the names of Juma Mugunga, Fabiano Matovu, and Robert Chizindo as administrators of the estate of the late Justin Chizindo, and Naluwega Maurisia as the administrators of the estate of the late Paulo Mukasa. Right Honorable Speaker, the four mentioned individuals entered into a transaction with the National Oil Palm Project and Bidco Uganda Limited to use the land for extending the oil palm project in my area. Right Honorable Speaker, this was, however, done without consulting and considering the Bibanja holders, most of whom are bona fide occupants, despite having their homestead on the same land and using it for agriculture and rearing cattle, respectively. Right Honorable Speaker, following the intervention of the Right Honorable Speaker Anita Among through a directive to the Minister of Lands, Housing and Urban Development, Honorable Judith Nabakoba, the Minister visited the area and halted all activities on the land until all the conflicts are resolved. Right Honorable Speaker, she also promised to carry out thorough investigation to establish how the leasehold land was registered as a freehold in the names of the four individuals. Secondly, to ensure justice and fairness for my residents who are undergoing a threat of eviction. However, she also, up to now, there is no comprehensive report, and the investigation which was carried they did not show any investigation which was carried by the investigation officers, which were directed by the minister. That notwithstanding,
Prayers.
yes, thank you, Right Honorable. There was an agreement, as I'm summarizing. There was an agreement, that was a memorandum of understanding which was reached between the lawyers of the landlords and the Bibanja holders, agreed on 700 acres of land to be distributed among the residents. Right Honorable Speaker, however, I would like to report to this Honorable House that this agreement between the two parties has been violated and the residents are living in fear due to pending evictions. My prayer, Right Honorable Speaker, one, that the Honorable House takes a firm stand to protect the 3 Bibanja holders in my constituency from the pending evictions, since they have nowhere to go. 2, that the landlords and the National Oil Palm Project this land conflict amicably. Lastly, Right Honorable Speaker, the Minister for Lands, Housing and Urban Development should explain to this August House why the National Oil Palm Project and BIDIC Limited have gone ahead to fence off this land before the standing conflicts are resolved. I thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity.
Thank you, Honorable. Colleagues, we need to be cautious when we are making our prayers. Okay? You cannot force a party to set a matter amicably. What if I want to go legal? Depending on my rights. So we need to be cautious with the prayers we make. But, and these are matters which can come either through petitions or Prime Minister's time, so that you get a comprehensive answer. So, to the Prime Minister, and the Prime Minister in 2 weeks' time. Okay? If you feel there is a very urgent matter in it, the Prime Minister can respond to it now. Or we do a petition, you do it's up to a member. You know, it's up to a member. Let the Prime Minister finish, and then Right Honorable Prime Minister Minute, let me first listen to Honorable Sewungu, then I listen to Honorable Namboze, you have your time.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I thank you for your wise guidance. And actually, before I was seeking clarification from the Prime Minister.
Honorable Sewungu, first a minute. Colleagues, let me just make this very clear. Okay? You will only get the respect if you give it others. A colleague has sent me cheats here which even had threats. And I just became humble. And I said, I'm giving you time. But I'm continued being harassed. So if I act in a certain manner, colleagues, please, I'm trying to give you time. And I have a timeline in which I work. So let's take it easy. All colleagues here have issues. So let's take it easy. I'll give you time, Honorable. When your time is coming, I'm giving you time, okay? So Honorable Sewungu.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker. Indeed, I was seeking clarification from the Prime Minister, and she didn't hear me probably, but I saw her looking at me. Right now, Speaker, these are the areas we are paying interest in too, as members. And indeed, some of these matters, like the Honorable was brought here, was given a directive by Parliament, by the Speaker in the House. And the Minister went there herself. We need to take keen interest in these officers who violate parliamentary directives. Yesterday we had a similar matter. Right now we have had the honorable member from before cameras, and I was going to seek clarification again from the right honorable Prime Minister that we are having information that these cameras are no longer working. Can she take time, interest in finding out whether our CCTV cameras, where we spent a lot of money, are either functioning or not? Because this information, Honorable Speaker, does not come from Sewungu or any member of parliament. It comes from security agencies who inform us that these things are not working. To a member like this one, because members must study what looks to be a matter of national importance and what should be a petition to parliament that must be processed by relevant committee of parliament to give an everlasting solution. But through you, Honorable Speaker, to the Prime Minister, Honorable Prime Minister, kindly take keen interest in the directives of parliament, decisions of parliament, and those particular officers who violate them. Honorable Mugima was here yesterday, and we were happy. When he came back, you allowed him, and indeed, with your office, you wrote to the Permanent Secretary of Local Government, and he drove directly to Uganda. But we can't run in parliament where we are all presidential materials, unless some of you don't feel the same. So, and then we find people giving instructions from here, directives. You go to committees of parliament, you invite people as witnesses, they refuse to enter appearance. And the committee goes on. When they bring reports here, Mr. Speaker, we shall challenge them, and it will be a challenge to parliament. Thank you, no Speaker.
Your concern is really well noted. Honorable Nanda, you wanted to add on that?
Yeah, Mr.
And
Speaker.
colleagues, at 4 p.m. exactly, we have Prime Minister's time, and I have 2 matters to handle before then. So we have to work within time. At 4:45, I'll be adjourning this one.
Mr. Speaker, I think you are the most generous speaker I've come across. Mr. Speaker, what I've noticed, what our colleague Governor Naka was raising, that is a police matter. And he's bringing here to the house because you would have advised him in your office that to go and see what? Police. What my colleague has raised here is a petition. And the reason we're not working on it, because if it was a petition, it would have accessed the order paper. And that would be the best. Mr. Speaker, one of the things why we're wasting time, we're going to even hear matters of national importance where a man and a woman have fought, and we will not do our work. I want to beg you, Mr. Speaker, when people come to your office, the generosity should end. Tell them, police, make a petition, we come. In fact, this petition he has raised, if I was the Prime Minister, it was just another normal question coming up. But if it is on the order paper, you would direct a committee either to look at it or direct the minister that go and handle in black and what? And white. This which he has just spoken is only answered. What time does Honorable Nabanja have to go and extract an answer? Mr. Speaker, don't waste a lot of your energy and waste the energy also of Parliament by entertaining each and everything as a matter of national importance. There are so many institutions which can handle these things. So, Mr. Speaker, the reason why you will see members losing interest in the Parliament is because you take 2 hours on matters of national importance, yet we have very fundamental issues to deal with in this House. So, Mr. Speaker, I beg you to act as Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Nandara. And I'm happy this has come from a member. Reason being, really colleagues, I've talked to colleagues, but they don't want to listen. And today, I referred around over 12 matters where I was guiding colleagues. It's a matter of just urgency. For example, the one for Honorable Ronald Zikanyike, I was told that it's eviction of residents in Bukakata sub-county. They are being evicted. So you feel it's a matter that is very urgent. But when a colleague reaches here, now you find it's a wider matter where I cannot, you know. So colleagues, you're not only wasting my time, you're also wasting yours. But also the Prime Minister will stand here, answer you, and you don't get value for your people. Now, you've spoken on TV, people have seen you. Most of us, we record that component and we send, I raised the matter. But you don't mind what was the response. So, colleagues, on this one, since now it has come from you, you will allow me to be more tougher. You will allow me to be more tougher. Prime Minister says she wants to give a small clarification on cameras, but the rest of the matter, let us push it to the Prime Minister for Prime Minister's time, or if you want, you can make it a petition. It's up to you.
I want to thank you, Honorable Speaker, and colleagues, Honorable Nandara. Allow me to inform you colleagues that our cameras are functional. They are functional. Let me give you an example. We arrested those goons who wanted to kill my brother here, my judge, the Honorable Katumba, using the cameras. Our cameras are working very well. Yes, if you want to know, you commit an offense behind the cameras and you see whether we shall not arrest you. So,
thank you,
Right Honorable Speaker. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Honorable Numbers.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. What has been raised by Honorable Nandala, but concerning the other rules, Mr. Speaker, sir, some people are senior here, and they know what is a petition and a question for all answer, because they had an opportunity to learn. Mr. Speaker, I think it is incumbent on all of us to assist the new members to learn how parliamentary business is conducted. I'm here, Mr. Speaker, to plead for the backbenchers. And I know you listen to us because it is up to recently that you changed the seat to the front bench. Mr. Speaker, I refer to Rule 26. That gives us an opportunity to raise questions in writing, deposit them at the clerk's office, and wait for the answer. According to our rules, Mr. Speaker, the ministers should come and answer those questions within 2 weeks. But Mr. Speaker, I've written several questions and they have not been answered as per the rules. Mr. Speaker, I also refer to Rule 45. Rule 45 talks about these matters of national importance, Mr. Speaker. You come with a very important matter. You take it before the Speaker, and he does accept that this is really a matter of national importance and urgent in nature. But when you raise it here, the Prime Minister says, I will tell the Minister to write a report and bring it here next week or the other week. Mr. Speaker, that ceases to be a matter of national importance, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, when we look at the provisions of Article Rule 49 and 50, Mr. Speaker, they say this is Thursday. That is a time for us, backbenchers, to raise the issues. I bring that together with Rule 179, Mr. Speaker, and I want to end there. That the rules provide that, Mr. Speaker, you will allot a day when members will raise the assurances as made by the President, the Vice President, the Prime Minister, or ministers in their constituencies. And in that, Mr. Speaker, you will facilitate your committee of government assurances and implementation to follow up on these pledges. Mr. Speaker, I know you wish us well. You want us to come back here. Mr. Speaker, I want to persuade you, Mr. Speaker, to give your members sitting in the bank benches an opportunity to represent their people. Somebody can say, you go to police, you go to the minister, but my mandate is here. I was sent here, Mr. Speaker. I was not sent to police. I will not go in offices and chase for ministers. There is a lead of government business here. If you think that my matter should be handled by a minister, let him demand that that minister does his work. But Mr. Speaker, our office is your office, and I pray that you continue giving us space to come and tell you what is happening in our constituencies. Much obliged, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Namboze. Honorable Namboze is right. And I think we've been doing this. But colleagues, the rule which Honorable Namboze is looking at, Rule 179, Sub-Rule 7, which talks of issues of government assurance within your constituencies and all that. I think we've been actualizing it under many Rule 41, which talks about questions to the ministers. The one I've not seen much being utilized is Rule 45, which is questions for oral answer, where you need to give a notice, okay, so that you can get an oral answer. So to me, what the members are raising is, when you are asking a question, put yourself in the shoes of the person who is going to ask. And give a comprehensive answer. The question can't be no. So you need to go in our rules of procedure. You see where your question lies. And the challenge I'm having, a member comes, you tell him that no, put it under 41. A member says no. My constituents know that I'm going to be presenting this matter. They are all waiting. Pressure. So, colleagues, we are going to continue trying, Honorable Namboze, and also the Committee on Government Assurance, colleagues. If you have issues, pledges in your constituents, the Honorable Chair is here. Always write to the committee. Forward your issues to that committee. But let's utilize Rule 41, Rule 42, and Rule 45 extensively. Colleagues, and we shall give you opportunity. It's not that we shall close off. It's not that we shall close off all these communications. Honorable Atkins, the cut survey. The questions are many, the issues are many. Yeah. I know of procedure and all that. But colleagues, yesterday, I'm trying to get one issue. Yesterday here, we discussed a report and considered a report from the Committee on Presidential Affairs on a nationwide assessment of the disaster-prone areas and the proposed sustainable strategies for addressing disasters in the country. We had a very extensive discussion. What remained was only adoption of the report so that it can be acted upon by the executive. So I want to put a question now that the House adopts the report of the Committee of Presidential Affairs on a nationwide assessment of the disaster-prone areas and the proposed sustainable strategies for addressing disasters in the country. Those in favor say aye, those against say nay. The ayes have it. Now, some of you are still having issues. Honorable Kaberuka, I won't give you time now. Prime Minister, please handle this matter. It concerns the continued homelessness of people affected during reaffirmation of boundaries. So, Honorable Kaberuka, link with the Right Honorable Prime Minister so that next week this matter is also handled comprehensively. Because we don't have much time, but I want you to allow me to amend the order paper and give only 10 minutes to the Minister of Gender. So we usually get a statement on Labor Day, and this statement I'll send it to the Committee on Gender. But the Right Honorable Prime Minister, I want to say that this will be the final time we are amending the order paper on the floor, to accommodate a statement for such a days. Because there is nothing urgent on such a matter, you'll always be telling us in advance so that we book for you space on the order papers. This is the last time we are doing it. Honorable Minister of Gender, 10 minutes, and then we go to another issue.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, the statement is uploaded. Uganda will join the rest of the world to celebrate International Labor Day on Sunday, 1st May 2022. This day is commemorated in appreciation of the contribution of workers to national development and helps in raising national and international consciousness on the importance of promoting and protecting the rights of workers. The day is also used to reflect on the achievements, challenges, and opportunities for enhancing productive employment. This year's celebration theme is mitigating the impact of COVID-19, enhancing productive employment for improved livelihoods through parish development model. Right Honorable Speaker and members, the choice of this theme is strategic in raising national consciousness on the relevance of parish development model as a mechanism for promoting productive employment. This House will note that while the government has made significant success in reducing extreme poverty, creating employment, and improving the standard of living of most Ugandans, unemployment and underemployment remain a big challenge. About 39% of Ugandans' households are largely involved in subsistence agriculture and mainly operating outside the money economy. Members may also be aware that COVID-19 pandemic disrupted value and supply chain, causing adverse effects for the economy. The pandemic placed workers in unprecedented situation, as witnessed by the drastic reduction in production, closure of workplaces, and consequently, loss of jobs, not to mention the diminished benefits for those who remain working under the COVID-19. To fully appreciate the impact of the disruption of COVID-19 on the workforce, the government, through a study to establish the impact of COVID-19 on labor, employment, and productivity. The findings of the study revealed that nearly 57% of the firms employing about 2,945,372 workers decreased employment to cope with supply chain disruptions and sales contraction, and only 5% registered an increased employment. This sank about 2.9 million people into unemployment due to the temporary or permanent layoffs by most and some firms. Right Honorable Speaker, the study also revealed that COVID-19 pandemic exacerbated youth unemployment, with about 1 in every 4 youth, constituting 24%, between the age of 18 and 30 years, losing their jobs due to the pandemic. In addition, there was a 35% reduction in sales per worker, and productivity of informal firms reduced by 59.9%. More than half of firms in agriculture and service sector adjusted salaries downwards by as much as 37% and 35% respectively. To respond to the challenges and also increase access to productive employment, especially for the 39% household that are in subsistence agriculture, mostly youth and women living in rural areas, government is undertaking a number of interventions, such as capitalization of the Uganda Development Bank Presidential Initiative on Wealth and Job Creation, EMIOGA, Small Business Recovery Fund, and Parish Development Model to mitigate the impact of COVID-19 on the productive employment. Colleagues, you may recall that on 26 March 2022, HE, the President, launched the Parish Development Model in Chibuku District. The PDM is aimed at moving households from subsistence agriculture to modern agriculture. This move is projected to create more jobs as 39% of households will graduate from subsistence to producing for the market. The changes the parish development model will bring will create productive jobs at household level, increase consumption and demand, and induce more jobs in the economy. This job creation model will lead to increase in production, improve incomes, and enable us achieve our vision of transforming Uganda from a peasant to a modern industrial and prosperous society by 2040. Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, it is on this basis that during this year's Labor Day, it will be important to reflect on the importance of the parish development model as a mechanism for enhancing productive employment for improved livelihoods. The day will be used as a rallying platform to sensitize the public to understand and participate in the implementation of the parish development model. The Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development is the ministry for community mobilization and mindset change. As part of our mandate, we have so far undertaken the following activities: developed and printed 1,500 copies of Community Mobilization and Mindset Change Pillar Operational Manual. Developed and printed 6,000 copies of the Training of Trainers Manual. Trained 63 national PDM facilitators. These are specialists in their district, city, municipal council, trainer of trainees, which comprise of the district community development officers, the district planner, communication officer, district production officer, and the officers in charge of extension. We have sensitized 16 gazetted cultural institutions and religious institutions on parish development model, undertaken talk shows, and trained 775 lower local government staff, that are parish chiefs, the CDOs, extension workers, sub-county chiefs, and operation wealth creation coordinators from the districts of Budaka, Chibuku, Butebo, Palisa, and Butaleja. And Right Honorable Speaker, we are ready for the sensitization for members of parliament. Together with the Ministry of Local Government, anytime that we are able to have members of parliament free on a Friday, probably in Kololo, I've already written that letter. Honorable members, in addition, the ministry is also implementing other programs that feed into the 7 pillars of PDM: the Green Jobs and Fair Labor Market Program, a constituency-based intervention that focuses on provision of business toolkits, equipment, and green technology for Juakali business groups; the National Apprenticeship and Graduate Volunteer Scheme, which targets both unemployed and underemployed graduates and uneducated youth between ages of 16 to 35 years, with work-based learning opportunities for practical skills. The project is currently being piloted, but we will roll it out to the other parts of the country. We also have Uganda Green Incubation Program, and the project is currently housed in Kampiringisa in Pigi District. It promotes climate smart integrated organic production skilling to peri-urban and rural community youth, women, and persons with disability. It also promotes business skills development and behavioral change of the youth and juveniles who are in conflict with the laws. Right Honorable Speaker, under normal circumstance, the venue of national celebration is selected on a rotational basis, and each city, district, and municipality is eligible to host the celebration. However, due to COVID-19 containment measures imposed to prevent and control the spread of pandemic, this year's celebration will be held at Kololo Ceremonial Grounds and will be presided over by His Excellency the President of the Republic. Right Honorable Speaker and members, as I conclude, I would like to ask members to join me in thanking the #1 frontliner during this COVID-19. I think we managed to contain the COVID-19 because of the efforts and the work of His Excellency the President, General Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. His leadership that he has continued to steer us in this difficult moment. I also thank you, colleagues, because you are also workers and you have equally, Right Honorable Speaker, steered this country and members of parliament in the right direction. I thank you all, and I request that this vigor that we have undertaken in this period and the collective vision and mission that we have moved together, we extend it to support the parish development model through appropriation and mobilization in our constituency, so that we are able to generate jobs and stimulate the economy under the parish development model. I want to thank you, Right Honorable, and wish all of you a happy Labor Day.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Colleagues, I'm going by my schedule. I'm referring this statement to the Committee on Gender for consideration of the issues that are in during this process of budgeting, but also if there are issues which you feel that are not very clear, these are some of the issues we can bring out on the floor anytime. So I'm referring the statement to the committee. Next item. Next item.
Item number 3, motion for adoption of the reports of the Committee of Gender, Labor and Social Development on gender-based violence in the districts of Moroto, Amdat, Kapchorwa, Queen, Tororo, and Jinja.
Chair, I'm giving you 15 minutes so that you can have time for debate, and then Prime Minister's time. But what is going to happen, clerk, do capture the whole content of the report in the Hansard, so that whoever will be reading the Hansard in future was able to follow what we are debating. Otherwise, this report has been uploaded on the system. I don't think members were coming to read from the house. As you read, that's when they are reading. We should have read earlier on. 15 minutes.
Much, Right Honorable Speaker. I would like to join Parliament and the people of Uganda to congratulate you upon being our Deputy Speaker. Congratulations, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I have a report of the Committee on Gender, Labor and Social Development on gender-based violence in the districts of Moroto, Amudat, Kapchorwa, Queen, Tororo, and Jinja. Right Honorable Speaker, we considered this report motivated by the Uganda Crime Report 2020 that was released in 2021, which cited that the gender-based violence was the highest crime of that year, and that the districts of the eastern and the northeastern had a higher prevalence of gender-based violence. So we went to establish the push factors so that we can bring appropriate recommendations to this Honorable House. Right Honorable Speaker, allow me to lay the minutes and the report as processed by the committee. I beg to lay. Right Honorable Speaker, I would like to draw attention of the honorable members to page 2, where we are looking at the regions of Sebei and Karamoja, which were very critical in regard to the report on GBV, and that they had the highest incidence of GBV in the country as reported by the police crime report. Chair, allow me to take members to page 7 because the rest are the provisions of the law and international obligations around gender-based violence, and to cite that the committee observed that while policy and legal framework is fairly solid, a number of shortcomings still exist within the law and its implementation. And therefore, Chair, the failure to implement the laws became a big setback, and the failure to popularize these laws through translations and sensitization and mindset change through various media also jeopardized the drive to eliminate gender-based violence and the interventions. So we come with recommendations on page 8. The committee recommends that 1, government should put in place measures to translate and implement all existing laws on gender-based violence and popularize them through existing structures such as women councils and the other statutory councils. 2, the Domestic Violence Act be amended to provide for a gender impact assessment before commencement for all government projects and an obligation for the state to provide shelters for the legal representation and create tougher punishments for the perpetrators of FGM, especially on minors and of course vulnerable persons. Chair, while the development partners have made a lot of interventions in providing the gender-based violence shelters, the committee discovered that these were just reception centers. Otherwise, we expect the gender-based violence shelters to provide rescue, rehabilitation, and resettlement to either back to their origin or resettlement by providing a future or a transition into the service sector. And so these reception centers that have been established by development partners can only hold the victims or survivors for 2 or 3 days, and then they advise them to go back to their tormentors without even solving any of the issues that drove them into this gender-based violence. And our recommendation is that the committee recommends that the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development takes up the lead in all efforts to address gender-based violence and plan and budget for all interventions and coordinate and monitor all state and non-state actors in the gender-based violence shelters. The shelters for victims and survivors of and people at risk of GBV. Right Honorable Speaker, and it has put in place guidelines for referral pathways for the response to gender-based violence in Uganda, and it has even put in place guidelines for the establishment and management of the GBV shelters, and also the guidelines for the prevention and response to FGM. Chair, however, besides these guidelines, there has been no attempt to institutionalize these shelters, and yet they play a critical role to rescue, refer, and rehabilitate the victims and resettle them. We come up with the recommendations on page 10 that government should provide funding of 10 billion to the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development for financial year 22-23 to establish and operationalize in a phased way the shelters for victims of gender-based violence in all regions of Uganda, prioritizing regions with higher incidence of GBV. 2, that government, labor and social development. 3, that government equips all shelters with the requisite services necessary to empower the victims, such as social support, rehabilitation, skilling, and toolkits, and give a second chance education, among others. That Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development supports and collaborates with local governments, especially the CBS department, Right Honorable Speaker, and all development partners in running and inspecting these shelters. That the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development fast tracks the construction of the rehabilitation center in Moroto, which was given money, Right Honorable Speaker, and for the last 2 years, its construction has stalled and nothing on the construction is going on. And the communities in Moroto are asking themselves what happened. So we request that the ministry follows up on this so that the shelter in Moroto is complete. Inadequate social services as an aggravating factor for GBV. There is limited access to education. Right Honorable Speaker, I draw members to page 11, the second paragraph after 4.3.1, that the scarcity of schools translates into abysmal performance of the Karamoja and Sebei regions with regard to nearly all statistics relating to education. The Uganda National Household Survey states that Karamoja has the lowest, it is a survey of 2019-2020, that spells that Karamoja has the lowest primary school net enrollment ratio at 42%. It has the second lowest secondary school net enrollment ratio at 19%. It has the lowest adult literacy rate at 25%, and the highest proportion of people with no formal schooling at 65%. We recommend, Right Honorable Speaker, that the Ministry of Education and Sports urgently scales up the construction of primary and secondary schools and technical institutions in the Karamoja and Sebei regions. 2, that the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development undertakes community mobilization and mindset change initiatives to increase school enrollments, retention, and transition. 3, that the Ministry of Karamoja Affairs present to the House an evaluation report of the State House Scholarship Scheme of 100 students per year from Karamoja for the last 7 years, Right Honorable Speaker. We need that report. 4, that the Auditor General undertakes an audit of the State House Scholarship Scheme to provide us with the equity as according to the national objectives and also the value for money. Inadequate health services, Right Honorable Speaker, we would like to recommend the construction and equipping of health centers in all districts in Sebei and Karamoja sub-regions in line with the government policy of ensuring that there is a health center 2 in every parish, health center 3 in every sub-county, and a health center 4 at every constituency. 2, that government trains all health workers in the clinical management of victims of sexual violence. Limited access to ICT services, Right Honorable Speaker. We even discovered that very many parts of Karamoja rely on Kenyan radios, and therefore most of the Ugandan staff, most of them keep listening to the Kenyan radios because they don't have a radio station that is being operated by any private person, neither that one of government. The recommendation is that the Ministry of Information, Communication Technology and National to the Uganda Broadcasting Corporation Radio and Television Network so that they don't have to rely on Kenyan staff. Right Honorable Speaker, the limited access to justice. Right Honorable Speaker, the Karamoja region relies for their high court on Mbale. That one we discovered, and therefore this discourages even those who would be witnesses to go those distances, and even the transportation charges are so prohibitive that they cannot proceed with the cases in court for failure in terms of money. The distribution of courts throughout the country also presents a very which are far from those justice centers. Chair, Right Honorable Speaker, we recommend that the Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs should set up more courts in the country, especially in areas with fewer and distant courts or justice centers, and even those with higher prevalence of the gender-based violence cases and crime. 2, that the Ministry of Internal Affairs should strengthen the Child and Family Protection Unit at all police stations. Right Honorable Speaker, I would like to tell the House that most of the child and protection of recent, they were supported by Oxfam, and Oxfam has pulled out. These are the ones you find under trees without a computer, without a pen, without a paper, and yet they are supposed to follow up on cases in the communities, no transport, no nothing. So they should also train and facilitate these police officers in. 3, the Ministry of Local Government should finance and induct the local council executives from Council 1, where the vice chairperson of Local Council 1 is expected to be the one in charge of child and family protection, on their roles and responsibilities regarding family and child protection. Cross-border FGM. Right Honorable Speaker, we are all aware that the children of Uganda are now being trafficked to the neighboring countries, more especially Kenya and Congo. And so we would like to recommend that the government of Uganda engages the government of Kenya, where in September, very many girls were repatriated, brought back from the Kenyan streets, and we found some of them at Koblin. Others have since been retrafficked back to Kenya, and we would like that government works with government of Kenya in regard to the prevalence of the cross-border FGM with a view to ending the practice for harmonization of policies and interventions. 2, that the heads of state of the East African partner states should assent to the East African Community Prohibition of Female Genital Mutilation Bill 2016 and the EAC Anti-Trafficking in Persons Bill 2016. Culture and GBV. Right Honorable Speaker, the committee recommends in regard to culture, because some of the push factors have a very great connotation on the cultures, and we recommend that government engages all cultural and other leaders in the fight against GBV and work with them to have alternative rites of passage, and of course having appropriate cultural activities. The impact of COVID-19 on GBV was another push factor, Right Honorable Speaker. The minister has already alluded to that fact, that it distracted so many businesses, enterprises, and engagements. And we equally cited that there was a restriction on movement, and the women went to traditional birth attendants for their births, and the traditional birth attendants would do the FGM when they were carrying out these deliveries to the women who they found having not carried out this FGM. And of course, even the moment partners had a drop in funding, so they could not follow up on these cases. I'm concluding, Chair. Our recommendation is that the government should increase funding for Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development to address gender-based violence appropriately. Integration of economic empowerment in the fight against GBV. Right Honorable Speaker, the empowerment, the economic opportunities and empowerment, the lack of these opportunities made the victims very vulnerable to GBV from their intimate partners and children and members of family. We recommended that government access to economic opportunities to people at risk of GBV, as most may not even have the capacity to demand for the money of the other development programs. Programs for communities at risk of gender-based violence. 3, the Office of the Solicitor General should fast track the processing of all bylaws and ordinances with local governments and lower local governments to enable enforcement by local governments. GBV and disability is the last item on our presentation. Right Honorable Speaker, the committee recommends that 10 billion be given by the budget Ministry of Finance as enhancement, so that the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development can refurbish, equip and retool all the PWD vocational rehabilitation centers in the country to make them fully functional and habitable. 2, the Ministry of Education and Sports should align the curriculum of all rehabilitation centers to the business, technical, and vocational education and training and the Directorate of Industrial Training. 3, to fill all the staffing gaps in all the vocational rehabilitation centers. And 4, that the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development implement an inclusive education at Koblin Youth Skills Training Center and across all the ministries, institutions, and the other centers. In conclusion, Right Honorable Speaker, in order for us to attain Sustainable Development Goal 5, to achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls, it is important to have efforts to end GBV, in particular Goal 5.1, which is a tall order for government to end all forms of violence against women and girls and eliminate all forms of violence against all vulnerable people. So in conclusion, it is critical to view GBV as a human rights issue and appreciate that as long as it takes place, human rights of men and women and children are being impeded. It is important that government reports to Parliament on the state of human rights the very same way they do to the United Nations. Right Honorable Speaker, government reports to the United Nations about the status of human rights, and they don't report to this Honorable House. In the same breath, the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development should popularize the 16 days of activism against GBV to bring more people on board to fight the vice of gender-based violence, and of course, for community involvement and collaboration right from the household. Right Honorable Speaker and honorable members, I beg to move that this report be adopted by this House.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, for the good work. Very good work indeed. Just a few issues which I've seen. Number one, that's why you're recommending establishment of health centers, 2, 3, 4. But we all know it's a government policy that they did away with health center 2s. Instead, health center 2s are being upgraded to health center 3s. So that one I think needs to be clear for our answered purposes. And then also the Committee on National Economy, I need you to do for us a study and report back in 2 weeks' time on the implementation of the loan for provision of health services to Karamoja sub-region, which was passed by the 10th Parliament. I remember I was on that Committee of National Economy when we processed it, the 20 million euro loan. So we need to know the progress of that project, because whenever we are hearing about Karamoja, as if health services are still doing badly, and yet we passed that very, very important loan. So we want to know from the Italian government, want to know how the progress is. Our colleagues, you've heard the report. The chair has presented. We are going to debate this for 30 minutes, and the debate begins now. I'm starting from this side, after I will come this side. And I'll start, of course, with Uopa, the chairperson of women. Yes, that's the only way you can do it. I don't know.
Thank you very much, Chair. I want to thank you for this opportunity, and I thank the committee for their report. Right Honorable Speaker, it's extremely unfortunate that despite enacting the relevant laws, like the Domestic Violence Act, the Anti-Female Genital Mutilation Act, the issue of gender violence continues, and our girls and women continue to face the female or genital mutilation. Right Honorable Speaker, we have to interest ourselves on the causes of this violence. In my view, I have noted, Right Honorable Speaker, that when you get to the countryside, most of the men have abandoned their role as the head of the family. The women are actually taking care of the families. And because of this hopelessness, this hopeless state in which they are in, the man comes home but still expects the woman to provide all the food when he has put nothing on the table. We must both work to ensure that the family that we have is well fed, the children are going to school, but not to leave the role of taking care of the family on the shoulders and the head of the woman. And this is why we are seeing this violence actually continuing. And in some cases, as reported, we have seen women now, the ones actually battering the men, because the little money they get, they drink. They go home drunk. When you're drunk, you are helpless. You are helpless, Right Honorable Speaker. The issue of alcoholism amongst our people at the grassroots, where you go to the trading centers, most of you, when you go back to your constituencies, by 9, 10, instead of the men being in the gardens or working, they are in the trading centers drinking. So, Right Honorable Speaker, we are coming with the alcohol control bill. I hope we shall have it worked on, but also secondly, Right Honorable Speaker, we need to deal with the challenges. Where is the problem? Despite the Anti-Female Genital Mutilation Act not providing an option of a fine, because it says when you are found, when you commit that offense, then you are imprisoned to not less than 10 years. But Right Honorable Speaker, can we know whether there are people who have ever been imprisoned because of committing this FGM? Maybe that is where the problem is, that we are handling people with kid gloves. We need to amend that particular provision to make it more stringent so that it is a deterrent. Because if you say not less than 10 years, which means somebody can be imprisoned for 1 year or less. So, Right Honorable Speaker, I support the report, but I want to request that the money cannot be given to Ministry of Gender alone. We need to look at the enforcement agencies, which is the police, because they face challenges. You go and report a case, the police tells you to provide transport. The officer assigned to investigate does not have the money to get to the grassroots to investigate what took place there. So, Right Honorable Speaker, we need to provide more resources to the police so that they can thoroughly investigate these cases of GBV. And of course, at the end of the day, we can have prosecutions. But the starting point, we need to review our laws, and we are going to look at that as the Uganda Women's Parliamentary Association. Stringent measures. But I wish the Minister of Gender could give us statistics on how many of these FGM, those who have committed this offense, how many have been convicted?
Okay, Honorable.
So, Right Honorable Speaker, allow me to end with the issue of the traditional birth attendants.
Honorable, I'm sorry I didn't mention the time one should utilize, but we have only 30 minutes. We have over how many colleagues? So she has used 5 minutes. I'm giving 2 minutes. Colleagues.
Okay, thank you, Right Honorable Speaker.
This is Wopa. Honorable Lydia Nabel.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker.
The men don't mind, I will also get you.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker.
2 minutes each.
Right Honorable Speaker, I want to thank the government of Uganda for the efforts made towards empowering the women. The issue of gender-based violence needs to be diagnosed from all perspectives. And Right Honorable Speaker, I am an advocate for cultural institutions. If we look in the past, Right Honorable Speaker, our grandparents used to disagree, but they would not fight. Right Honorable Speaker, it is important that government looks into empowering the cultural institutions to deal with the mindset transformation and also empower them to address some of these. I come from, our way of handling cases those days were very simple and was very practical. Today, a woman is beaten and that woman goes and reports the case in the police. And when the husband is arrested, that woman will be cast and she will never find peace. Right, Honorable Speaker, let's focus and allocate some funding to empower our cultural institutions to look at how we can address the issues of gender-based violence across board. Because gender-based violence doesn't only look at beating of a woman, but even the performance of a man in the house. That is also violence, which is very quiet, that people don't talk about. Right, Honorable Speaker, another issue, which is a problem today, is the empowered Ugandans, the so-called educated and the elites. People are too busy for the families, right, Honorable Speaker. Someone comes back home, is on the phone, does not attend to the wife, does not attend to the children. At the end of the day, you will see conflict because no one is attending to each other. This is a time that we need the Ministry of Gender to keep on advocating for people to take family issues very seriously.
Achen Docas.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker.
Will be for
Liliana Bear. This is going to record and in the Hansard that if we say that performance of men in the household is a form of gender-based violence, I don't know what we are talking about unless she clarifies. To the best of what I know, globally, but also in the country, we have 6 main forms or types of gender-based violence. And I have not come across what is called performance of men unless you explain what it is. Otherwise, we have rape, we have things like physical assault, sexual assault, including things like early marriage, psychological violence, and there are 6. That is what is globally known. I thank you.
Thank you, colleagues. I'm suspending this debate for 45 minutes. According to our rules, Rule 41 is Prime Minister's time at exactly 4 for 45 minutes.
Thank you.
So, Right Honourable Prime Minister, and then after, we shall resume with the debate. It's Prime Minister's time. No, it's Honourable Sewungu, that's what the rules say, 4 p.m.
Thank you so much, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker and honorable colleagues.
Honorable Nswamba, I thought you were going to speak for men. So please, you're the only counsel we have here whom we trust. Remain.
Right Honorable Speaker and honorable members, I got a question from the Honorable Kawalia Abubakar, Member of Parliament, Rubaga, Kampala. He asked the following questions. Let me give the background as he wrote it. That slum dwellers form an integral part of the urban fabric and make a significant contribution to the urban economy. It is, however, obvious that these slum dwellers settle in marginal areas with high environmental and health concerns. The question is that as a government, why has it become difficult to spearhead the development of these slums by at least initiating affordable house projects for the urban poor, drawing reference to the upgrading schemes for spontaneous settlements that resulted into the execution of the Namuwongo upgrading and low-cost housing pilot project in 1987 and the Masese Self-Help Women Project in 1989. Honorable Speaker, the response is that the Namuwongo upgrading and low-cost housing pilot project in 1987 and the masses self-help women projects in 1989 were projects of the NRM government. Government is working on strengthening the National Housing and Construction Company and revamping it as the housing delivery arm of government on low-cost housing, including housing is at the center of government development agenda. Government is targeting to reduce the acute housing deficit of 2.2 million by 20% and decrease the percentage of urban dwellers living in slums and formal settlement from 60% to 40%. That Honorable Speaker, Honorable Rumu Richard, Member of Parliament, Mitiana South, gave a background that since 2021 December, insecurity has heightened in Mitiana South constituency. Criminals had on several occasions attacked police stations, police posts, and killed some officers and stolen some guns. Over the last few weeks then, several police posts had been closed, and that since that time, a total of 6 police posts were closed. And these were Namutamba, Kiryoka, Chibuto in Bulera sub-county, Tanda in Itamu division, Nakaseta in Busimbi division, Chikandwa in Chikandwa sub-county. The close of these police posts had led to in the said communities and the Mitiana district generally than before. Residents were then living in fear and for their lives and property. In December last year, 2 police officers, that is 38-4 Corporal Okech Alfred and Police Constable Chibongo Moses, were hacked to death by criminals at Sebabo in Sekanyon Town Council after responding to a robbery call by residents. Surprisingly, according to him, government responded by closing some of the police posts, exacerbating insecurity in those areas then. His question was that Right Honorable Prime Minister, why were the mentioned police posts closed instead of reinforcing them? And the response is that the joint police forces decided that the police posts that were vulnerable then to such attacks should be reorganized and merged in order to prevent further loss of lives and arms. Accordingly, 5, not 6 police posts were merged. These are Namutamba, Chikandwa, Tanda, Kabuto, and Nakaseta. All police officers in this. The other question is, what urgent, strategic, and decisive measures does the state have in curbing the alarming crime and insecurity in the Wamara region once for all? That Honorable Speaker and colleagues, the joint security forces have since carried out specific operations targeting the Ugandan coalition force for change, that is UCFC in Kampala, Mitiana, Wakiso, and Chiboga in the Kasanda districts. 17 suspects were arrested and charged on several counts. All the 5 submachine guns that were robbed by the group were recovered. no further attacks have been registered since that time. The joint security forces continue to work with communities to weed out all elements of criminality. And this is what we are going to do in my brother's constituency. The Honorable Mawanda Muranga, Member of Parliament, Igala East, Bushenyi District. His background is that he raised the question to me in accordance with Rule 41 that Parliament approved 334 million under Supplementary Schedule 1, financial year 2021-2022 for the Public Service Commission to enable it to conduct recruitment process as a matter of urgency. That was last year. The Public Service Commission commenced the recruitment process to fill the over 80 vacant positions at various levels in KCCA. The process was concluded in December 2021, and the Public Service Commission submitted minutes and names of successful candidates to the Executive Director, KCCA, for appointment. However, the successful candidates have not been appointed. He's also aware that the Public Service Commission communicated to KCCA and the concerned candidates that have failed to secure appointments. The offer and their offer, according to him, was to expire in 30 days. And the question is, can the Right Honorable Prime Minister explain why KCCA has delayed to appoint successful candidates, aware that Public Service Commission submitted a list of all successful candidates for appointments, and that within 30 days, as communicated in the preamble, that the Public Service Commission will, the offer will expire. My response, Right Honorable Speaker, is Kampala Capital City Authority received the minutes staff that was in December 2021. And in January, the Secretary Public Service Commission started issuing notes of appointment to successful candidates. Kampala Capital City Authority has completed the recruitment exercise. The other question is that Right Honorable Prime Minister, he wanted me to inform the House when the appointment of successful candidates will be effected. Like I told you earlier, that Kampala Capital City Authority issued appointment letters and successful candidates are already working. They reported for duty in March this year. Honorable Johnson Ebwaru, Member of Parliament for Soroti West Division, Soroti City. To give a background, that in April 2021, this Parliament honored a 15-member medical team of Soroti Hospital for successfully conducting a surgery involving the separation of the conjoined twins. The surgery took place in Soroti Referral Hospital 6 days after the twins were condemned by Mulago National Referral Hospital and referred back to Soroti without help. Parliament noted that the Soroti Regional Referral Hospital only operates 40% of its capacity. In honor of the above, Parliament recommended the following: rehabilitation and equipping the hospital, expansion of the theater, enough staff of the hospital, installation of the CT scan in the hospital, awards to the medical team, amongst others. However, 7 months later then, honorable colleagues, you realize that we have not been answering your questions. Some of these questions have stayed for some time, but I've tried to update them because so that they can be uploaded on the answered properly. 7 months later, nothing has been done yet. It would help cut down on referrals to the National Referral Hospital. The question is why? What is causing the delay? The Ministry of Health this is my response, Right Honorable Speaker, that the Ministry of Health has planned to construct a new Soroti Regional Referral Hospital on a new site. The land has already been secured. The master plan development is in progress. Once it is complete, it will fully be equipped with modern and expensive theater. And 100 meter oxygen plant, which is under procurement, will be fixed in the hospital. A regional blood bank is also being constructed at the new site of the hospital. Government budgeted for the installation of the CT scans for all regional referral hospitals, and Soroti Regional Referral Hospital is among the beneficiaries. The procurement process is almost complete. Regarding more staff, the Ministry of Health has advised the hospital to prepare a recruitment plan for more staff. The Soroti Regional Referral Hospital team that performed a successful operation of the conjoined twins were awarded medals by HE, the President of the Republic of Uganda, at the NRA Liberation Day on 26 January 2022 at Kololo Ceremonial Grounds. And the government is enhancing salaries for doctors, consultants, and all other medical cadres this financial year.
Right, Honorable, if you could lend me a few seconds in your time, I recognize our guests who are witnessing you present. We have the Right Reverend Robert Muhirwa, Bishop of Fort Portal Diocese. And he will be leading High Mass at 5 p.m. And colleagues, I urge you to join us. He's accompanied by Father Edward Muhumuza, Father Richard Bomera, and Father Frederick Singire. Honorable Alex Ruunda, Honorable Linda Irene, on 3rd of March, of June, Matters Day. So, and Parliament, through the Office of the Speaker, on your behalf, colleagues, has contributed 50 million for the organization. And thank you, colleagues. Right, Honorable, sorry for the interruption, but I felt it was important. You know he's watching you.
Right, Honorable Speaker and colleagues, the Honorable Dr. Samuel Opio Achut, Member of Parliament, Kore North, asked the following question. He gave a background that on 30th June 1977, the East African community came to an end and thousands of workers were laid off without payment of their service benefits. Monies for payment of their dues are understood to have been submitted by the East African Fund manager, then Crown Agent of London, to each of the East African governments, including Uganda, in 1980s. In the year 1990s, government proposed an ex gratia payment of 7.7 million Uganda shillings per claimant, which the former workers rejected and went to court. A consent judgment was made on 27th December 2000 under civil suit number 1010 of 1996, in which government agreed to pay retirement benefits to the former East African employees. The payments included the pension areas and pension for the pensionable employees, service gratuity and repayment of provident fund contributions, accrued leave among entitled to 7% simple interest on delayed payment. The question was that why hasn't government completed payments to the former East African employees 44 years later? My response, Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, is that it is not true that the government hasn't completed the payments to the former East African employees. Government constituted an interministerial task force and made recommendations in the year 2000 to pay pensions and gratuities of former workers of East African community upon verification by the Auditor General. These included pension and gratuity for those who served for at least 10 years. Government is currently paying 485 pensioners through Ministry of East African Community. The verified pensioners were paid their entitlement, including 70% simple interest as directed by court. The Honorable Zake Francis, Member of Parliament in Mityana Municipality, Mityana District, asked the following questions, but he gave a background. That on 18th November 2020, Uganda Police Force, His Excellency Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, from a presidential campaign rally he staged in Iruka district. In response to the arrest, peaceful protests broke out across the country, particularly in Kampala metropolitan area. In order to quell the same, security operatives, mostly putting on plain clothes, conducted a shoot-to-kill operation on 18th and 19th November 2020 that resulted in two massacres of several citizens who died innocently. The question to me is, did the government punish the security officers responsible for shooting dead innocent civilians during the protests of 18th and 19th November 2020? If yes, what sort of punishment were made to whom specifically? The response is government has taken steps to apprehend the culprits. So far, 2 officers have been charged and convicted accordingly. Thus, Mustafa Sali and Augustine Mugisha were charged for murder, convicted and sentenced to 35 years and life imprisonment, respectively. The other question is, who was the overall commander of the security officers who participated in the shooting against the protesters? Honorable Speaker, this was a joint security operation by Uganda Police Force and Uganda People's Defense Forces. This was done by operational and tactical commanders who were responsible to the Inspector General of Police and the Chief of Defense Forces. The other question, when and how exactly is government planning to compensate the families of the innocent civilians shot dead by security officers during the said process? The answer from government is that the government is verifying the lists of the affected people. As soon as the exercise is done or complete, the affected families will be compensated accordingly. The last question that was posed is there an official report about the shooting by security officers during the protests? Then, and this is the last question. Honorable members, a report was presented here before Parliament by the then Minister for Internal Affairs, the Honorable J.J. Odong, and I believe Parliament has this report. Honorable Speaker, I have only used 22 minutes. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Right Honorable Prime Minister. Honorable colleagues, of course, you don't debate this, and you don't have any questions. Our rules, which we amended yesterday, will only apply after being gazetted. So we are still applying Rule 41 as it is. If you thought you're going to start oral questions, please be patient, okay? Yes, we have a debate on an important report, but the leader of opposition has a right of reply or comment. So leader of opposition, anything? On the Prime Minister's time? No, you have anything you want to say? Yeah. On submission of the Prime Minister.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. On behalf of the Leader of Opposition, I would like to clearly bring out the issue of the spoiled police stations. The police stations have been members of parliament to help them revamp the police stations by asking building materials, land, and everything. And all that pressure is put on many of the members of parliament. So we would request the Prime Minister's office to give notice to the respective districts, especially the DPCs, to communicate to the respective communities about the merger of some police stations, and that they should not expect any help, and that when they pressurize the members of parliament, these police stations will not come into force, as they will not be supported by the line structures. That was one of the comments. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Right Honorable Prime Minister. Right Honorable Prime Minister, Clerk, I think that we go back to the debate. The motion.
Item number 4, statement of government business of the succeeding week.
Prime Minister.
Right Honorable Speaker, statement of business by the leader of government business. I move under Rule 28 of the Rules of Procedure, which requires the leader of government business to make a statement in the House regarding the government business of the succeeding week. I'm therefore submitting the following government business for the succeeding week, that is 3rd May to 5th May 2022. One, introduction for first reading, the Museums and Monuments Bill 2022. Then number 2, motion for resolution of Parliament to amend the resolution of Parliament for the financial year 2021-2022. Right Honorable Speaker, I beg to submit.
Thank you. Clerk, capture that business so that it's on the order paper. Procedure.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the procedure issue I'm raising, I heard the Prime Minister saying they want to amend a supplementary schedule 1. The procedure issue I'm raising, Mr. Speaker, under what rule do you amend supplementary budgets?
Honorable, that's in anticipation. It's just informing you of a business they are bringing, and this business is submitted to the clerk and the presiding officer, and we engage and we see whether it qualifies to go on the order paper or not. So it will be handled by the presiding officer. Colleagues, let's resume debate on on the report of the Committee of Gender, Labor and Social Development on gender-based violence in the districts of Moroto, Amudat, Kapchora, Kwen, Tororo, and Jinja. I had picked Honorable Nachmuri Helen, but I don't see her here, so I'll start with her neighbor, and then I follow with Honorable Msibambi. I'll also come here. The Prime Minister has given us some minutes, so we shall utilize them effectively with the debate.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Right Honorable Speaker. My name is Betty Ethonalima, the woman MP of Wakiso District and also Shadow Minister for Local Government. Right Honorable Speaker, having read the report so well, I only wish to emphasize that as we continue to plan for ensuring that we have no more gender-based violence, let's not only look at one side. And this one, because given the report of the Ministry of Gender for April and January 2020, and also it was further evidenced under the Gateway Research Center, very much well quoted, that the districts of Kampala and Wakiso were affected so much as far as child violence is concerned. And also the districts of Chitugum and Kasese were very much high in intimate partner violence. Let's really now have a general solution for matters of gender-based violence. And given that local governments are very key in ensuring that, that gender-based violence is solved, the office of the CDO members, I continue to emphasize, let's see to it that we have decentralization, and let's go further and check, are we having districts that are well facilitated so that we ensure that these CDOs are able to reach out, timely reaching out, and also are able to solve those issues. Because at the center, even at the ministry level, we shall not dwell with gender-based violence when we are expecting officials to come from the center and check. So let's take it on as we plan to see that we eliminate gender and the community development officers, such that at the end of it we can achieve together. I submit.
Thank you, Honorable Narima. Honorable Msibambi.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. I would like to thank the committee for the report, but I find a problem that we are looking at this issue in terms of punitive action and the law. I know we are legislators, we are supposed to make laws, but looking at it from the perspective of punishment, police enforcement, I think we're missing the point. As we talk right now, this issue has been going on over and over. But if you look at the families or the communities affected, these are communities whose economic empowerment is lacking. So I think we should really call upon the Ministry of Gender to come up with a specific budget, specifically for the vulnerable communities in matters to do with mutilation. You should now think about establishment of schools, sensitizing people, and change the mindset. Then specifically, you also have to address matters to do with the economy in those specific areas. I can assure you we all have our backgrounds, but no member of parliament can subject her daughter to genital mutilation. Why? Because we had the opportunity to go to school and good schools, and really were sensitized that this is really not only a cultural issue, but it is a violation of human rights. So whether you build hospitals to treat those people who are now affected by this kind of, I don't say primitive culture, a person who is already subjected to that kind of violence. So I think we.
Thank you, Honorable. I remember he's raising a very important point. When he was my lecturer of law, he used to emphasize that the law fits in society, not society fitting in the law. So the moment you just go for only punitive mechanisms, and then they clash with the culture, then you'll find that the society is failing to fit within the law. So I think it's very, very important that we emphasize it to ensure that indeed. So you'll allow me to just pick a few people here, then I come at the center and I come here, colleagues, okay? I'm going to come here, Honorable Chon. I'll pick Honorable Sewungu. Leader of opposition, you among the report conclude on the report. Honorable Sewungu, yes, Honorable Nabukera. I'll pick Honorable Nancy Achora and Honorable Kawashari Ranaumi first. That's for. Oh, yes.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Colleagues, if you can notice what I followed, let me be sincere. I first picked colleagues who have been here since 2 p.m. Yes, I want to start rewarding people who come and hear much earlier. I think it's very, very important. So, Honorable Sewungu.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And I've been here since 2 p.m.
Honorable Katsaba, I'll give you a chance.
Right, Honorable Speaker and honorable members. First of all, let me thank the chair of the committee. The methods of controlling gender violence are very simple, but not practiced in this country. Right, Honorable Speaker, as Honorable Swambi has said, talk about schools. Schools were competing. Every year there were themes they could compete on. But as we talk now, there's no single school in Uganda that can afford buying a set of drums, training teachers. When you talk about LCs, are you funding them? These LCs would be helping in this. In the Catholic Church where I come from, we have people called the Basesa. Right, Honorable, we know that because we are Catholic, I'm sure of that. Now, these people, when you are getting married, they sit you for 3 months, training you for your marriage. If you get disputes at home, they come in to help you. All these are no longer in practice. When you talk about police, Right, Honorable Speaker, go and look for any police post or anywhere where these people are in charge of gender given facilitation. People are fighting, they are killing themselves, but even at police where you are sending them, police women are beating their women and women are shooting their husbands. Now, how do you get a solution of gender violence where you are taking problems, also are suffering from the same problem? When children, when they are trained, they go back and sing these songs. They recite poems at home. Even their parents come for school concerts. They hear those songs. Daddy, stop beating mommy. Mommy, stop beating dad. And their parents will start despairing. But for us, we think we shall use technical methods. LCs must be given a lot of strength because they see people daily, but they are always demanding money. Once it comes to elections, you will see government giving LCs.
Thank you, neighbor.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Nabukera Hanifa, Woman MP Mukono District, also Shadow Minister for Human Rights. I want to appreciate the report of the Committee on Gender. And I also want to appreciate that you want to put justice centers and courts in those areas. But at the same time, we should not forget that these cases begin from police, because you lodge in a complaint at the police. Police normally don't, they delay to complete the files. They say they are still investigating, which hinders cases not to be taken to the Attorney Generals for sanctioning on time. So I urge the government probably to put an investigative team to investigate these cases at the police, such that they are taken to court and cases are kicked off for justice. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lamo.
Right, Honorable Speaker, I want to say thank you for this opportunity. And I also want to thank the Committee of Gender for bringing the report. The issues why we have escalating cases of GBV in Uganda, it's not just in the few districts that has been mentioned, but most importantly, we need to first look at the root cause of this GBV in the country. Most of these families that has issues of gender-based violence, when you record them, you see that most of the husbands in those homes, they don't have money. They are economically disabled. And when they have inferiority complex, especially on issues where women are in cash box, they go and collect money, they're empowered economically, and they come back home, their husbands feel insecure. And definitely the children and the mothers always, at the end of the day, they get suffering because the men will always go and sit at the roadside to drink waraji, starting from morning. So moving forward, I want to encourage the government, especially Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development, when they are bringing programs to empower women, the role model men in the society should also be empowered. For example, the parish development model that we are talking about, we should not leave the men behind. Because when a man sees that Nancy is richer than him, it definitely, my husband will become disabled, he will become inferior. Whatever you will bring in the house as an idea, the husband will think that you want to override them. So we need to preach and practice the gender equality in society if we want to reduce on issues of gender-based violence. And then two, even at school, I think those days we used to have drama at
Ntungamo. Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. I think I should not be different. I should also, much as it is late, congratulate you for attaining that seat. Mr. Speaker, I would like to thank the committee for the recommendations that they have put to at least minimize this gender violence. The main cause of gender violence to me is poverty. And the causes of poverty are several, which have been, most of them have been highlighted in the committee report. Because if they talk of education, they talk of justice, they talk of health. If you give health units, if you give police money, if you give this gender ministry money to do mobilization, then you would have covered most of these gender violence problems. So, Mr. Speaker, many times we pass recommendations and resolutions in this parliament, which are very, very vital. I am praying that we take this report seriously to cater for, at least it will reduce this gender violence problems in these given areas. Mr. Speaker, I thank you and I pray that we take it like that. Kasese, then come Ampara, I go here.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, sir. And I want to thank the committee for that authoritative report. Mr. Speaker, sir, I think one of the things that our interventions are not making a lot of impact is that our interventions are not anchored on evidence, research, facts, and data. Mr. Speaker, sir, I think this parliament is supposed to be a consumer of knowledge. We don't have the ability to generate or to produce knowledge. Knowledge producers are universities, colleges, and other institutions. Mr. Speaker, sir, I would have really loved a situation where we have citations from peer-reviewed international journals. And Mr. Speaker, sir, you as a leader at Makerere University, you're fully aware that that university has a School of Gender and Women's Studies. How I would have loved and enjoyed the committee and the leadership of the committee to align or to contact the school so that they can be in a position to tap into the knowledge base and the knowledge resources. Not only that, Mr. Speaker, sir, just very recently we're looking at animal disease outbreaks. Our show has nothing to talk about the cost.
Rampara. I'll pick Honorable Awich. That's Kabela Maido. I pick, let me do this. I'll pick Rampara, Kabela Maido. I come to Kapchora, Honorable Chemutai. I come to, okay, Napaka because of Karamoja, Fort Poto, Otuke, Youth, and I conclude with Chair and the Minister. Oh, Mama Imat, you get it. Thank you. Let's do quick.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and let me take the honor to also congratulate you for assuming that position. Mr. Speaker, I rightly believe that GBV, to end it, we need a multi-sectoral approach. And for this, I commend the committee and the chair for elaborately prescribing the causes. But I may say that we need to take a keener interest in exploring the existing alternative dispute resolutions in our communities. Mr. Speaker and honorable members, you know that where we come from, we have different culture, and to begin to think we can alienate this culture and not integrate it in the legalese, in the laws that we are doing, I think we would not achieve as much as we'd want. Importantly also is the issue of financial inclusion. For me, at this time, through you, Mr. Speaker, we know that one of the leading causes is access to the resources in our communities. It is at this time that I would look at and wish to pray that the Ministry of Gender looks at all these funds that we have, at the opportunity that we have, the parish development model. I am a champion that these work funds, you integrate them into the parish development model, and we make increased access of funds to the women at the lower local level. Office of the probation officers. If you go in all local governments, this is the most unfunded office.
Kabela Maido.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. For record purposes, I'm Jane Awiche, Dominant of Kabemaido District. I am just up to add on my voice that my fellow leaders, the issue of gender-based violence is a very serious matter. But in some cases, even in our own districts, even as leaders, we are perpetrators of this problem. I want to pray and I want to request my fellow leaders, let us try our best to be exemplary. Let us try to work together with the DCDOs, together with the CDOs, sub-county chiefs. Sometimes we go out to sort out cases and you find that your fellow leader is a victim. It becomes very difficult to talk with the police. I pray that when we go back home, let us be exemplary. Every platform that we get to exercise our duty of speaking to our voters, let us make sure that we put in a slot on the issue of gender-based violences. But if you are yourself the victim, nobody will listen to you. I thank you all.
Thank you, Kapchora. And you see, when I'm like I know Sebei, I know how many MPs I pick from Sebei. So I know my sister Evelyn Chemutai wants to speak, but Kapchora also is a neighbor. Because this is Buko, this is Kapchora. So we try to balance. Yeah.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. I would like to take this opportunity to thank you and congratulate you upon your new job. Right Honorable Speaker, I'd like to start by answering a question which was asked by the chairperson of WOPA. She wanted to know whether the culprits of some of these gender-based violences whether we have reports of such cases. I want to report that In the year 2014 in Kapchora district, the government imprisoned 7 women who got FGM, who underwent FGM. 7 women. These were women, married women, with children in their homes. So they were put in for 6 months. They left the families suffered so much. And so the whole district cried, and they went to the president, asked for pardon. Months. So at least since that time, since these women were put in, I have never seen any FGM being practiced in Kapchora since 2014. If it is there, it is being done privately or stillishly in hiding. We have never seen it again. So this shows us that when we enforce laws,
Honorable Chemtai tells me she's a victim. So colleagues, we have a colleague who says she's a victim. Let's listen to her.
Thank you so much, Honorable Speaker. Actually, I'm a victim of FGM, but positively. Yeah, I want to just add on something in the report. Honorable Speaker, 3 schools where actually the government gave us 3 schools, the anti-FGM school, but the only school that was taken to Buko has never been built to date. 5 years ago, it was taken by the government. As we speak, the thing is just still water and mud. So I think the chair of the committee should take note. We need that school for tech girls to be immediately constructed. The surgeons also and the team that prepared the girls for FGM, they were prepared that they're going to be paid something small or compensated on what they were doing. But to date, they've never done anything to those women. So they'll go ahead and practice whatever they've been doing. Another thing, Honorable Speaker, just as Karamoja was given State House scholarship, we face the same thing with the people of Amdat. The girls of Sabay sub-region have nothing, and it's only education that will help them to get out of this FGM. Please, can the girls of Sabay sub-region also benefit from State House scholarship so that they can abandon the practice? We also requested for special counseling for the women that have already undergone FGM. There is a preaching everywhere saying going through FGM is bad. Women are traumatized, but no one is speaking to them and telling them what they should do. So we are now having women who are suffering, they are sick because everyone goes there and they've been abandoned in the community that because they practiced FGM. Honorable Speaker, we also request that the committee chair.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Right Honorable Speaker. For the record again, Ngoya John Bosco is my name. I come from Napak District. I'm glad that the committee looked at Jinja and Moroto because the source of what I'm basically seeing as one of the key causes of the domestic violence is actually the availability of crude waragi, crude and illegal waragi. It is too much. In the study that was done by COW, Local Development and Alcohol Abuse, only in 2 years, there was a rise in domestic violence by 17.1%, just as a result of the availability of crude waragi. And I don't know whether it is as a result of the deliberate lack of enforcement of the Nguli Act, because you will be surprised in Napak, just next to the district police station, that is where the dealers of the crude alcohol are. You have the crude alcohol being sold and moved in jerrycans in the morning. So you wonder whether all the roadblocks that we have from Jinja through to Moroto are actually alive to the existence of the crude waragi. I can tell you it is disastrous. And when you see the number of many children coming in the streets, it's because of the inability of children to be able to be surviving in particular homes where their parents are actually drunk all through. And that is coupled with the poverty. So alcohol becomes a cheaper thing to be able to take, because once you take, you are high and the stomach which is empty is actually filled. So I really think there is need as much as possible to look at this enforcement of the Ngulu Act, or even a modification of that act so that they can actually be able to deal with these individuals that are dealers
Thank you,
in
Honorable.
Nguli. Thank you.
Potpoto?
Thank you,
Colleagues, I remember, Honorable Alex, in the 10th Parliament, this House pushed really, really hard, and we banned Kavera Waraj, okay? And we thought we were mitigating. Now, most of the men these days, especially rural men, they just go drink Waraji, thinking they will survive on Mukama Nayamba, and those other drinks. They reach home, when they fail to perform, and women complain, the women are beaten. So the issues are many, you know, this is reality. I think we shall need to deeply look into these issues and through the action report, where I will guide at the end. Potpoto?
Yeah, thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. And I think we need to speed up the alcohol bill that is being proposed such that we control the intake of alcohol unnecessarily. Right Honorable Speaker, on page 20 of the report, I'm disturbed by the fact that the committee needs 10 billion, but this is in unfunded priority. Yet, we are in dire need of seeing the refurbishment, equipping, and retooling of all the vocational rehabilitation centers. But this is within our control, Right Honorable Speaker, because we are into the budget process. And I think the committee must have really ensured that this money is got where during, because this was in the budget framework paper. I hope that this time round, it is really given a priority. I'm seeing the Minister of State for Finance nodding vertically, looking at me, which is very good. And the Minister of Gender is here. So we should really, during appropriation, ensure that this 10 billion is realized. Finally, I was really disturbed on page 21 in the conclusion, and I wondered, because they say that in Tororo, it is the other way around, that the men are the one being beaten by the men.
Even in the
Right Honorable Speaker,
that side.
yeah, I got really concerned because my brother, Honorable Katusave, is really in Tororo. So I pray that he is really not facing the problem. Thank you very much.
Otuke?
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. For the record, my name is Julius Achon, Member of Parliament, Otuke East Constituency. Their report is so beautiful and nice. Now the question is, we as a legislator who makes law, a look at this way is going to be a long story. What causes most problem in this country of ours, Uganda, and what bring all this gender abuse? Honorable Speaker, I think one, lack of jobs. For example, last year, you see when the lockdown for COVID came, and then also we had the drought. There was no rain. You find youth are busy playing cards. After playing cards, they have to go back home jobless, very energetic. When somebody is not doing anything and goes back with that kind of energy, you see things would mess up in the homestead. So I request government really to make sure when we men, including me, I think when we work harder, you don't do those dirty games. Honorable Speaker, secondly, they must also force all these youth to go to school. Some are so, they just play anyhow. They don't care about going to school, Honorable Speaker. For example, one of the village in my constituent, you find a young man having 3 women. Imagine having 3 women, you're having children after. Now the
Youth Western?
Honorable Speaker, I wanted to reiterate that the fight against GBV cannot be won alone by government as a standalone. Like colleagues earlier stated, the church as a very big player, the cultural institutions, and then the government. Honorable Speaker, the committee makes a wonderful recommendation. Their first recommendation on page 8, that there is need to translate all the existing laws and popularize them. Honorable Speaker, it is quite depressing that most of our communities don't understand or don't even at all know that there are laws that protect them. During the COVID lockdown, I tried to interact with my community, asking them, why is it possible that a young girl who has been defiled is pregnant and yet the culprit is walking on the street? And then the parents tell you, now what do we benefit by prosecuting this individual? And yet we can squeeze them at home and they compensate. Our communities don't understand that provisions in the law, for example, section 129 of the Penal Code Act, 129A, provides for both the serving a sentence and compensation. There is need, Right Honorable Speaker, for us to put in effort and sensitize. This can be done. Government already has radio airtime. Let it provide airtime to MPs, at least monthly. Let us discuss these things, tell our communities about these laws that exist to protect them. Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker.
Now, colleagues, I can't give you any more time, but I have two colleagues who have been here since we began, and they are likely to make their maiden speeches. And of course, it can't be Mama. Mama, your time, I booked it. Okay? Honorable Oseru Arua and Ginger. They've been here from 2, and I promised them yesterday that they will speak. Okay? I know, Honorable, then we shall get guidance from our senior. Honorable Nachimure. Sorry, I can't go back. Ginger. Oh, engineer.
Thank you so much, Right Honorable Speaker, for appreciating me for being a good timekeeper. For the wonderful report. And according to the committee, one of the districts that have been affected is Ginger. And I represent Ginger as the woman member of parliament. First of all, when the committee was trying to identify one of the reasons for gender-based violence in those districts, one of the reasons was the limited access to education. Right Honorable Speaker, the fact is that our young girls sometimes avoid going to school because they lack menstrual hygiene kits like pads. Right Honorable Speaker, when a young girl goes to school and she's in that time of the periods that we call the periods according to women, she can be unable to study very well in class and she may end up going back home. Right Honorable Speaker, my prayer is that the Ministry of Finance should sit and see how they can scrap off taxes for menstrual hygiene kits like pads so that our young girls are able to afford them. Information denied. So that our young girls are able to get the pads and be able to attend schools.
Arua.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I condemn gender-based violence, the strongest term, Right Honorable Speaker. This is a matter that cuts across the regions. Where I come from in Arua, recently we experienced a similar thing like this. There's a husband pushed his hand under the woman's vagina and pulled whatever things he could grab off. And then from there, he took off till date. We are looking for him. When we talk about gender-based violence, it's not just a joke. Really, find when men come back and they find there is no food and they're hungry, definitely they will launch their anger on the women. So I think one of the causes to this gender-based violence is also hunger too as well. I therefore request the government that we have local councils in place. Why don't we invest in the local councils that we have such that they can be able to put for us facilities in place and they counsel some of our women and even to the women too as well. We choose to keep quiet when we are being abused until when we are physical injured. That's when now you will see women reporting. I now therefore request government to find a even to invest in the judiciary too as well. These issues of delaying cases in the courts is not good really. Those who are criminals, who are found doing this kind of things should be apprehended immediately. I submit, Right Honorable Speaker. Thank you.
Now, colleagues, Minister of Gender, I have seen the presidential directive on us increasing money for cultural leaders, cultural institutions. We give them 6 cars, we do what? You see, when you take government money, you should account. We have some of the cultural institutions even supporting some of these barbaric acts. Some of them are deeply rooted in culture. So I implore you to work with the cultural institutions to fight these barbaric acts in community. You know, some of them take them as part of culture. And I think it's something you can look at. You don't need to say, Parliament wants you to do ABC. No, they are just requesting you to work with them and you see how best we can get something good out of them instead of them supporting this barbaric act. Ma'am Cecile, go ahead.
Thank you, Speaker, for recognizing me. Speaker, this is a very important subject we are discussing. I have looked at the report and I found that is quite realistic. However, I just want to raise 2 points. One, who should be the driving institution to correct the situation? You find that the executive, who should be at the forefront, it was until recently that the executive realized that women exist with distinguished qualification and are able to be placed in top positions. You are aware that for years we have had the Prime Minister's office all occupied by men. And yet there were women in NRM with distinguished qualifications and training, but they could not be there. But we thank God now, so at least now they have realized. We need to thank them. When you go to the judiciary, Right Honorable Speaker, we need to line up the judicial system in such a way that they can humanly handle domestic violence. If a girl is defiled by a man and the man is taken to prison, and this policeman who is handling the case of the girl could be a defiler himself. So I think the judicial system needs to be restructured to take care of domestic violence cases. Thirdly, Right Honorable Speaker, I have looked at the law. The law is quite good. But unfortunately, Right Honorable Speaker,
Leader of Opposition.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. We have looked at the report and thanks to the committee for the compilations. There are some recommendations, especially on the need to increase on the number of courts. However, we are also requesting judicial staff be increased to offset the backlogs. And then we also request that the judges are appointed by an independent body other than the president, such that they are able to actually offset some of our complaints independently as well, and let the commission to to bring in the judges and the judicial officers be approved by Parliament. This is going to help us because when these judges and judicial staff are serving on behalf of the people, we believe that the quality of their ruling is for the people as well. There has been a recommendation for establishment of more technical schools in the quoted regions. But we are calling on the implementation of the NRM manifesto of having a primary school in every parish, a secondary school in every sub-county, and a technical institute in every region. Such that recently you saw Karama Jones when they were taken back to their place as if they were not happy. If they run to Kampala and a technical school is in Chivoga, we can even take some of them to a technical school in another district. But at the same time, we are seeing a no priority to the 10 billion that was requested to establish.
Yes, honorable colleagues, I know you have very valuable contributions to make on this matter. For example, Honorable Aporot Christine Kumi, she wrote me a sheet showing me how they allocate only 10 million shillings every year to the fighting of GBV in Kumi. You know, this is very meager. So I don't see the chair of the committee here, but in the interest of time and Honorable Minister, these are issues where we don't need responses now. So I'm going to invoke Rule 220. I request the Prime Minister to do an interministerial study because this is beyond gender. It includes education, it includes justice, it includes, though gender is the main ministry. But the Prime Minister, you do an interministerial coordination, and in 6 months, you come back with a comprehensive action taken report on the issues raised. Even, yes, in because religious organizations are under means of gender, okay? So Honorable Cecile Guard, kindly, please, time is not on our side. The bishop is already waiting. I have good manners. So I want to put a question that the report of the Committee on Gender, Labor and Social Development on Gender-Based Violence in the districts of Moroto, Amudat, Kapchora, Kwen, Tororo, and Jinja be adopted with other recommendations that have come from members, which can be extracted and submitted. Those in favor say aye, those against say no. Aye. Thank you, honorable colleagues. Wow, I'm loving the vibrancy. No, I'm concluding, so I don't see anything wrong with the House. Procedure, we should be having an issue in the House, and I'm adjourning the House to Tuesday, 2 p.m.